Welcome everyone to Swimming with Sharks, Adventures in Sales Ops. My name is Will Smith. I am your host. This is brought to you by Manobite, a diamond solution partner with HubSpot. And thanks for joining us today. And if you are joining us, please let us know where you are joining us live from. We love to know where our audience is from, ladies and gentlemen. So please let us know. Engage with us. So if you're on social media, give us a shout out there on Facebook or Periscope, or if you're watching us live on YouTube, let's get some of the questions. If you've got questions for our guest today, if you have questions for me, we'll do our best to answer them on the air here live. So thanks for joining us today. We are live every Tuesdays at 2, Swimming with Sharks, Adventures in Sales Ops. Let's get to today's adventure. So on today's adventure, we got the word of the week. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is another acronym, MTA. It is not the Metropolitan Transit Authority, but we'll get to it. So stick around for that very quickly. And then we have a great interview. I can't wait to talk to Jason Azocar. This is going to be a great interview, ladies and gentlemen, and I owe a debt of gratitude to this gentleman. So if you have questions for him, he is a HubSpot alum, and right now he is the founder and CEO of HubSearch. So we're going to find out all about that and the amazing things that Jason is doing with his company. So after that, we'll do a power play, and if you're not familiar what the power play is basically something that you can do as soon as this show is over or as soon as you're done listening to the podcast. We publish this as a podcast on Wednesdays. So if you're interested in doing that and checking it out, please check us out on all the places where you enjoy your podcast, whether that is Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music, or even some of the smaller places where you can get your podcast. So as soon as you're done listening or as soon as you're done watching, take that power play, that advice that we're going to give to you, and do something. Take action. We'll wrap up the show with a question for you, and that's how we ask that you engage with us throughout the day or throughout the week, throughout our time. Let's engage. Let's learn from each other. That's why we do this. That's why we ask questions, so that we all can learn and get better together. And then we'll close it out with until next time, because we are every Tuesday at 2 o'clock with somebody new. So please join us. And until next time, let's get to the word of the week right now, ladies and gentlemen. The word of the week is MTA, which is multi-touch attribution. So last week we talked about marketing attribution and how you can use that to really bring together your marketing department as well as your sales department. So what does multi-touch attribution do for you? Well, basically, as you know, the buyer's journey can be very complex these days, especially when it comes to digital marketing. And so multi-touch attribution really helps with your digital marketing because it helps you get very granular, helps you get really into the data of what you're doing. So we're not just talking about large buckets of content or really just sources. We're talking about just social media in one bucket and maybe email in another bucket. We're talking about very specific points within the buyer's journey. And as you know, that can be pretty complex because your buyers these days, they jump from devices, they jump from platforms, they jump from different areas. And so data-driven digital marketing with multi-touch attribution is very important. It helps you allocate where you'd like to spend your marketing. So here's an example. My son recently purchased a new pair of sneakers or tennis shoes, depending upon what part of the country you're in. But basically, he bought these Allbirds. And he got the idea because first he received a Facebook ad. So he pretty much ignored it until he got an Instagram ad. And so he said, oh, that's pretty interesting, but he didn't do anything with it. So that's 2 touches right there. That third touch, he received a Google ad, which he clicked on, and he went to the Allbirds website in which he got a coupon off. He received an email, he got some sort of coupon money off, and that's when he decided to make the purchase. So 4 points there. Basically, how can we attribute who gets the most credit for these different points? And that's what multi-touch attribution seeks to answer. So for example, you could actually do first touch and say, yeah, that Facebook ad that he totally ignored, that was it. That's what made him purchase. But really what we want to try to do in these different models, for example, in the linear model, we want to attribute all of these touches to an action that led him to make a purchase. So in the linear attribution, every single one of those touches receives about 25% of the credit for making this purchase happen. In a U-shaped model, for example, 40% would go to the first touch, then 10% to the second, 10% to the third, and then 40% to that last touch. And so if you have a really strong offer at the beginning of the buyer's journey, and then maybe some, not so strong offers, but then a very strong final offer, which leads to a purchase, that's where you would use the U-shape. There's also time decay models. There's a W-shaped model. There are different ways to look at this. You can look this up. Now, it does take time to put this together, to put together a multi-touch attribution model. And of course, you need some pretty advanced software to make that happen. But it is, and it does help you really attribute the entire customer or the buyer's journey, which can be very, very difficult to follow in this day and age with digital marketing. So it's important to, if you're going to establish this, make sure that you establish your goals, make sure that your team knows what those goals are. How are you going to measure whether it was successful or not? Just like any other plan that you're going to implement, make sure you have those goals, applying those insights, make sure that you continue to optimize, test things out, test it till it breaks, and make it happen. It helps you be very strategic. So that's today's word of the week, another acronym, MTA, multi-touch attribution. Look it up. We found some pretty good success with it for the people that I have talked to that have put this into place. So give it a shot and let us know how it works for you. And so let's get on to our interview. I'm looking forward to talking to Jason Azocar today because not only is he a proud HubSpot alum, he is a dog dad to 2 golden retrievers. I also have 2 dogs, but they're tiny dogs. So you can ask him on social media about Moose and Conway if you'd like. He spent a summer in the northern part of Chile with his Chilean minor cousins. He's an aspiring harmonica player, and as a musician myself, I may just have to ask him about that. He is the founder and CEO of HubSearch. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Shark Tank, Jason Azocar. Welcome, Jason.
There you go.
Thanks for being with us today. Tell us about your summers. Sorry, I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm running over what you have to say. My apologies. Tell us about your summers in Chile.
Yeah, it was just one, but it was an incredible experience. So my dad's side of the family, his mother and father, my grandmother and grandfather were both Chilean born, and they lived there all while I was growing up. So we got a chance to go down a bunch of times. I've probably been to Chile 7 or 8 times. Wow. And I was very lucky to spend my entire summer between 8th and 9th grades between Santiago and a really small fishing village called Antofagasta, which is in the very northern part of the country. In the Atacama Desert, so literally the driest place on the planet. It's essentially sterile. It's a very, very cool place. Wow. And the city itself, much like the country, is this tiny sliver. On one side is the ocean. On the other side is the driest desert in the world.
Wow.
So very, very cool place. Got to hang out with my grandmother for a summer, so it was a great experience.
Oh, that's great. Family, can't beat family, right?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I like that a lot. Nice, good experience. So, so I understand that you're also a dad. When your daughters ask you what you do, what do you tell them?
We help people find their dream jobs.
Nice.
I think that's the most fun and relatable part of our mission as we talk about it, right? So broadly, our mission is to be the go-to recruiting firm for HubSpot, agency partners, and customers while we guide our candidates toward their dream jobs. Right. It has to be both sides of it. Right. I mean, we are very, very invested in helping the companies we work with grow and scale and get better at hiring, and just as involved and invested in helping the people that we work with make incredible career moves and do things they're passionate about, find positions they love.
Wow, that's to be able to balance both sides. Truly, that's a feat in and of itself. I think a lot of times
each side doesn't work without the other.
Well, exactly. And I think a lot of times it's us versus them. And you've found a way. It sounds like you found a way to really balance both. How did you do that?
It wasn't easy, right? I mean, I think when we first launched this thing, we were hyper focused on client experience, right? And of course, we wanted to treat our candidates in integral, truthful, amazing ways. But as we've gotten more and more into this thing and refined our process and really focused deeply on our candidates' experience, it's made everything more effective, more efficient, right? The way that we can deliver for our clients is vastly improved because we are become friends with the people that we work with. I mean, we genuinely have personal relationships with candidates we work with, people we placed. Will, you know this firsthand. Yeah, we care a lot about the people we work with.
Yeah, I have to admit that that's why one of the reasons why I'm very excited to talk to you today, Jason, because I was the beneficiary of the recruitment and the whole process. And you're absolutely right. I found it. This show wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for my current position. And yes, it is true. HubSearch helped me get to this point. So I am, of course, deeply thankful. I tip my hat to you. Thank you for that. So I'm glad that you agreed to come on the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So tell me, it's no secret, I'm a bit of a HubSpot fanboy. So I'd like to know your experience at HubSpot and how that developed into HubSearch.
Sure. I'll start the story slightly before HubSpot. Okay. So I've been recruiting for a very long time. I feel like I'm one of the few recruiters who I knew I wanted to do this when I was in school. Most recruiters sort of fall into it. They're like, I don't really want to do sales. Right. But I don't really want to go be some specialist in some other field. So sure, let me try this recruiting thing. So I did the traditional staffing agency thing for like 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. Didn't love it. In fact, I hated it. But it was incredibly valuable because it helped me understand what I didn't want to build in the future. And I'll get back to that. And then frankly, I got super, super lucky. I was in Boston in sort of that tech boom at right place, right time. So I was at Wayfair before HubSpot. I was actually the first full-time recruiter at Wayfair in 2008, 2009. It wasn't even Wayfair yet. It was still the CSN stores. And they transitioned brands shortly after I got there. So really early. And then I got the chance to hop the river, go across the river to Cambridge. I worked for HubSpot for a number of years, and I got there reasonably early as well. Mm-hmm. When I got there, our tech recruiting team, so it was everything I focused on at HubSpot was engineering, and it was just me and Keith Pescasolido, who, if anybody knows HubSpot well, knows that Keith was like the original recruiter. He's now the director of talent at Drift. So he's a good friend of mine. And then when he went off to lead things at Drift, I was lucky to step into like a head of talent role for the engineering org. Spent a couple of years fully sort of thinking about how do we continue to make HubSpot engineering teams the very best on the planet. And it was a really cool time. I was there when we opened Dubspot, the Ireland office. So they actually sent me to Ireland for a couple of weeks right when the office opened, and we did this massive recruiting blitz. That was a good time. That was a really cool experience, like building out this team in the heart of Dublin at a time where tech companies had just started to look at Dublin as an amazing opportunity for international growth for all the reasons that it exists, right? Great talent pool, tax incentives. But that was a lot of fun. So I spent a couple years at HubSpot, loved every second of it. Ended up going off to do some other startup-y things in Boston that were a blast. But frankly, I always missed the HubSpot ecosystem. It's just, it's so relationship based. It's, even though it's a software company, it's such a tight knit network, right? I mean, in an incredibly brilliant move, HubSpot built this partner network, which of course we'll get to a little bit later. But just this beautiful representation of how much emphasis HubSpot puts on partnerships and relationships, right? It's become a massive driver of HubSpot's own growth. And I always knew I wanted to get back to that, right? So did talent acquisition and like talent program consulting for a bunch of really cool startups for several years. Actually, for a couple of other HubSpot alum founded startups. There's a company in Cambridge called Gakwa, which is, think of it as like the open table for sailors, right? So if you've got a boat, you're bouncing from port to port in a trip, you pop open the app and you can book slips. Very, very cool app.
Wow.
Almost the entire founding team are ex-HubSpotters.
Oh, wow.
So I got to work with those guys they just picked up like $14.5 million in Series E funding. So they're doing just fine.
They're okay.
And look, I always wanted to get back to this world in a more full-time fashion, and always knew that I wanted to start something of my own. right? And when we started doing the research on this idea of founding a recruiting organization that was fully dedicated to the HubSpot ecosystem, I completely expected that somebody would have already done it. Frankly, I was shocked when we realized that nobody had done this, right? Because the model exists in some other ecosystems, right? There are other recruiting organizations that are hyper specific to a piece of software. For example, there's a couple of agencies that all they work on is Salesforce related searches, right? If you need somebody who knows Salesforce, you come to us. We said, how in the world does this model not exist for HubSpot? So we built it. And what we hoped to find was that the narrative of, hey, our founder recruited for HubSpot for years. We're going to take all of that knowledge, all of the experience and all of the best practices learned from HubSpot and other really effective in-house recruiting teams and apply it to the agency model. Why would you work with anybody else? Right? We hope that would sort of be the narrative, and it's snowballed, and it's been a wild year and a half. I mean, it feels crazy to even say that out loud. It feels like we've been at this for years, but we're only a year and a half in.
Wow. I was just going to point that out. Only a year and a half. I thought it was longer than that. I didn't dig too deep when it came to doing my research, but a year and a half. So tell me about that first day a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was incredibly exciting from the get-go. I mean, just from the moment we came up with the idea, realized nobody had done it, and found this massive gap in this market, in this space, we knew we had an incredible opportunity. And the question was, how do we go execute, right? How do we put this thing together in a way that is going to provide substantially more value than, like, I'll use air quotes, than like a staffing firm. By the way, if anybody ever called us a staffing firm, that's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Look, nothing against staffing. It has its place. It's so different than how we operate. And I can talk about that later. But the first day was myself and Megan Prescott, our director of client services. She was our first hire. And just really trying to get everything in place, picking systems, trying to go out and acquire clients, doing everything I could in my network to launch this thing. And the snowball started rolling really quickly. I mean, we came into 2020 with 16 searches active, which for a team of 4 is pretty exceptional, right? 6 months in.
Right.
And then COVID. So COVID was terrifying for us, right? I mean, when COVID first hit in March, everybody stopped hiring.
Yeah.
Right. And if organizations aren't hiring, we have no purpose, essentially, right? That's what we do. So it was scary. We saw that number go to 3 searches in 2 weeks. So we were thinking, we're talking amongst ourselves, and we're saying, okay, did we start a recruiting organization at the worst possible time in history, right as everybody was about to pause on hiring for a couple of years? And there were a couple of scary months. March, April were scary. We weren't sure. We survived. We have seen this incredible bounce back over the last 3-ish months. Even though COVID is starting to come back, we're getting the sense that companies aren't going to hit the panic button in the same way they did the first time around. I think people are recognizing, like, business still needs to happen, especially in this world, right? Everybody's marketing budget may have shrunk, but no one's flying anywhere. No one's going to conventions. There are no live events. All the money is being funneled into digital. So with the vast majority of our clients being HubSpot agencies, the ecosystem is thriving, which is great for everybody, including us.
Yeah, that is great. Last week we had Rachel on, and she basically said, how can we do more with less? And I think that's a great point. And you're helping, provide that. How can we do more with less and just get people digitally set with the right people in the right place? So that's a great story. I could listen to that all. That's good. I'm going to rewind that one definitely when I put out the podcast.
And it's just a fun space to be in. I mean, so frequently we are working with a couple of founders, right? Mm-hmm. Early stage agency, small organization, for sure. No, like, head of talent, head of people operations, probably not even like a human resource function. So in so many cases, the message to us is, hey, we're ready to grow. We know we need somebody awesome. That's as far as we've gotten. What the hell do we do next? So we get to have a lot more value and add a lot more value and have a lot more input than just recruiting, right? Of course, the recruiting piece is our primary hat, but like I personally spend a bunch of my time in like talent program consulting. So a lot of what we end up doing is, how do you build a great set of interviews? What questions should you ask? Should there be a case study? And if so, let's build it together. What does great onboarding look like? How do you think about culture and retention? So yes, recruiting is sort of our primary value, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we do with our clients because, I mean, why not? It's fun.
Yeah, long-term value rather than just let's plug these holes and thank you very much. Call me in a few months. It seems like you take the whole person, the whole organization into account.
You got it.
Yeah,
hiring anybody is a massive investment, right? Not just in money, but in time. Right. It's a huge investment to bring somebody into your organization, right? I say that I talk about this with our clients all the time. Like getting the person in the seat is difficult. It's probably more difficult to make sure that they are engaged for years to come, right? Getting them in the door is only step one. Now you've got to make sure you're doing all the things to maintain long-term engagement and make sure you've got a really enthusiastic, happy, productive person, and you're protecting your investment.
That's so good. That's quotable right there. You'll see that on the socials. Don't you worry. That is definitely quotable right there. I love that. That's terrific. So in the recruiting industry, what's something that you just absolutely, you mentioned the nails on the chalkboard, but what's something within the industry that you absolutely just disagree with?
Ooh, great question. So probably a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about staffing versus the way we operate. The thing that, and unfortunately, I think recruiting agencies get a really bad rap. And frankly, it's because it's generally super transactional, right? Hey, here's a bunch of resumes. What do you want to do? That's it. There's really no additional value. It's, we went on Monster, we went on Career Builder, whatever. We went on some job board. We found a bunch of people who are out there looking for work. We happened to find them before you did. Here's the resume, pay us a fee, right? It's a very commoditized process, very transactional. It's just the opposite of the way we work, right? I mean, the way that we tend to operate, I tell our clients this all the time. Working with HubSearch is going to feel like you've got an amazing recruiting team sitting down the hall in your building. Like, we are going to attach ourselves to your business. This isn't, hey, go find us some applicants. This is, you can expect us to deliver all the same types of things an in-house talent acquisition team would deliver. Right. Again, so back to the idea that, yeah, of course, the primary value is let's find somebody incredible. But then how do we help you optimize all the pieces of process around that you can keep, of course, perpetually in your process, but make it a really seamless experience for candidates, because we're very rarely dealing with folks who are actually out there looking for something new. Right. Our clients can go get their own Monster login, Career Builder login, right? That's not what they're asking us to do. We're doing the heavy lift. We're doing true talent acquisition, true sourcing, right? So we're going and reaching out to people who have a pretty cool job, probably working for an interesting company, doing cool work, making good money. And we're saying, hey, we think we found something even more compelling that we want to tell you about, right? So really activating passive talent, which has a host of benefits. So very, very different than sort of that standard traditional staffing model.
As you're talking about your process, I'm thinking I'm going back in my memories, kind of like, oh, I understand it now. I'm being very quiet on my end, mostly because I'm just kind of reminiscing the process that I went through, and it's all coming together. It makes a lot of sense. So tell me about, inbound methodology. How do you apply inbound methodology to recruiting?
Oh, I love it. I'm glad you asked. That's so one of my favorite projects that we worked on at HubSpot. And this predated me a little bit, but I did get a chance to play on it when I first got there. Was the inbound methodology is incredibly powerful, as we all know, for lead acquisition, customer acquisition, all the things, right? Absolutely no reason you can't apply that to talent acquisition, right? Looking at the way that you promote your employer brand. Think about your careers page as essentially a lead gen property, right? You can apply the inbound methodology to all the things you're doing in recruiting today, and it's extremely powerful, right? Like one of the things we talk about with clients all the time, there are definitely positions where you shouldn't need us, right? We tend to be really candid. Like, you should never have to work with an agency for every one of your hires. It's not cost effective, right?
Probably
There
not
will
a good fit.
absolutely, right. There will absolutely be cases where you're very unlikely to find a more senior person with very niche skill set, right? That's where you probably need some help. But if you're talking about a recent graduate, or if you're just like, I need somebody really sharp and we can teach them everything they need to know, okay, you should be able to find that person on your own. And it's all about putting incredible content out there that highlights your employer brand, your culture, your benefits, your team, etc. Literally all the same stuff you do to acquire clients, you can be doing to acquire applicants.
So it sounds like very much like the inbound methodology that you use to acquire, like you just said, to acquire clients. It's a long game. It's not just, I need someone here in 2 weeks, make it happen. And it sounds like a very long game strategy.
Right. And you should be doing it at all times, right? Whether you have an open position or not, you always need to be thinking about and talking about and putting out cool content about what makes you a great place to work, right? Because we are all one conversation away from needing to make a hire, right? It's an unfortunate truth of any business. At any moment, anybody can call, any one of your team members can Slack you, Zoom you, whatever it is, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be giving you my notice right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's very
and
true.
the other side of it, and that we tend to get engaged, for example, in one of two situations, right? The more negative one, which I sort of just described, somebody's leaving. The other piece of it is you have an amazing couple of weeks. You onboard several new customers, and all of a sudden your team is completely maxed on bandwidth.
Yeah.
What do you do next? You need a contingency plan. You may find yourself very quickly in a position where you can't onboard a new client because you'd be over promising, under delivering, and that's going to erode your brand more quickly than anything.
That's so good. That's great stuff. So, all right, that's what they should stop doing. They should start doing, or they should start doing inbound methodology, apply that to recruiting. So, what other advice? It sounds like a lot of your day to day is very consultative with you consult with a lot of these agencies. So tell me what that's kind of like. What's your process there?
Yeah, that's the fun part, and frankly it's totally free form because everybody we work with is so completely different stages, different focus, different team size, different ask. I think one of the things we find pretty commonly is that agency founders know marketing and lead acquisition and client services inside and out. The human resource talent recruiting space tends to be a bit of a black box, right? They know they need to hire, they know they need great culture, they know they need to retain, but doesn't tend to be the emphasis because there's so much demand for their time. That's where I spend most of my time, right? My team, I've got a team of exceptional recruiters, right? When we get a search, my team is unbelievable. You know, they deliver very well. They're very, very good. So that frees me up to not have to be in the tools recruiting for most of my delivery time, right? So most of my actual time working is talking to founders, talking through, hey, here's what a great interview process will look like. Here are the things you can do to ensure that every candidate, whether it's a HubSearch candidate or somebody you found on your own, make sure they have an unbelievable experience, right? And whether you're going to hire them or not, make sure that everybody walks out of your process feeling like, man, that was cool. I want to be at that company. Right? It's so important for a whole bunch of reasons, but maybe most importantly, you want the option, right? At the end of an interview process, you want it to be your option as an employer. Does this person come join us or not? Right? So the idea of doing everything in your power to avoid opt-outs is an important thing, right? So I just do a lot of talking around those types of things. How do you get somebody onboarded, right? Especially remote onboarding. Remote onboarding is incredibly tricky. How do you make sure someone feels immediately like a part of your team and plugged in and engaged and socially connected when they're 1,000 miles away and can't physically meet any of their coworkers? It's tough. It's tricky. We just went through it ourselves. We just had a brand new recruiter join us yesterday. She's incredible, and she lives in Wisconsin. She's like 10 hours away from us. So we talked a lot about how do we make absolutely sure this person feels incredibly welcomed and like a part of the team day one.
Well, it's first impressions. It's really your onboarding is first impressions. And if that's going to set the standard for your time at a company, certainly you want to make sure that it is a great experience. And I love that you consult on that and you help on that, so that it's not really when you find the candidate and you send them the offer, it's just beginning.
Exactly right. And I think you make a great point. Very much a first impression, and you've got one shot at it, right? This person is never going to be more excited about their job than they are on day one.
Yeah.
You can either perpetuate that and amplify it, or damage it. Make sure you're amplifying it, right? Make sure you're doing all the things. Make sure you're doing all the things that when someone gets there on day one, they're going, okay, I made a great choice. I'm so glad I'm here. Because there are an awful lot of things you can do to have someone going, oh shoot, did I make the right choice? Was the grass really greener? It's just a natural thought that can creep in. That's what you're battling, making sure that you've reinforced. It's a major life decision, right? I mean, getting married, having kids, buying a home. I mean, there's not a whole lot of things that are more impactful to your life than a job change.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think we always talk about customers and buyer's remorse, but I don't know if is there a term there for new?
No, we should coin one right now. There needs to be.
Exactly. There needs to be some sort of, oh shoot, what have I done? Why did I switch? Maybe the grass isn't, like you said, maybe the grass isn't greener. There should be a term out there. So if anyone who's listening, definitely, if you have some suggestions, definitely throw that out there, and we will embrace it. And
you need a term for sure.
Give us that term. What's the buyer's remorse equivalent of somebody switching to a new job? That's really, we need that term for sure. So tell me something that you guys do that you feel you kind of discovered, a better way of doing things in your recruiting.
Yeah, great question. So our process has been refined over a year and a half, and of course we'll continue to get better, but the way that we operate is so substantially different. We get really, really involved, right? We joke about it all the time. Like we're a little bit of control freaks because we have to be, because that's how you manage a great process. So when I talk about being really hyper involved, I'll use the example I used earlier, right? Traditional process is, hey, here's a resume submittal. We screened this person. It sounds like they may fit. Here's the resume. Go run your thing, right? Reach out when you want. Schedule the interview when you want. This person is now in your process, right? When you work with HubSearch, you're working within our process because we've seen it to be more effective time and time again. So for us, we built an interview for this position for you, Nanobyte, whomever it is, right? We ran this person through the interview. They passed. We think they're amazing. You're going to interview them on Thursday at 3 p.m. It's already on your calendar. We literally just need you to show up to the interview and get us feedback really quickly. Right? So just much more assertive, much more engaged, much more involved. Again, back to the idea of you are essentially retaining a talent team. That's the way this thing has been designed to feel.
I like the speed in which you work. That it's, hey, listen, we found this person, they passed our screening process, we think you should interview them. It's already on your calendar. Because right. I think so many, like you said, the demand for time is so present for so many founders that if they have a half hour to do that interview and you put it on there, they're not going to brush it off. It's already taken care of. You just need to click the link if you're doing it on Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, and look, our goal is to save the folks we work with as much time as humanly possible. The other piece of this thing is, we're gonna own all the logistics, right? You don't need to do anything except show up to the interviews and get us feedback within a couple of hours. Like we got to move quickly, largely because sense of urgency is usually pretty ramped up by the time we get pulled in, right? Again, so frequently we hear, whatever, my most senior account manager just gave her notice. We are in serious trouble if we don't have somebody in that seat in a couple of weeks. Right? Or the other example, suffer. Right? My team is maxed. If we land another deal next week, we may have to say no to new business. That's never a good feeling. That's a terrible feeling. Nobody wants to ever do that. So usually for us, sense of urgency is pretty peaked when we get to a search, right? So we tell companies all the time, it's going to be about 30 days. Like you're going to have a signed offer in about 30 days. This isn't a 2 or 3 month process, right? And you should only have to talk to 4 or 5 people. We're going to have to interview 20, 30, 40, whatever it is. That's what you're leaning on us for. We are your first round interviewers. You should only have to talk to the 4 or 5 finalists who can all absolutely do the job. The skills are all going to be there. Any one of these people could do a great job at the thing. You decide who's going to be the very best fit for your team.
So, what do you think most agencies or people that you work with, what failure have you seen, or have you seen them kind of running towards that? You're kind of like, stop, don't do this.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a bunch of ways I could take that question. I think the first is disjointed process.
Okay.
Right? I think one of the things that we are constantly reminding the companies we work with, these aren't applicants. These aren't folks coming to you saying, hey, Manobite, I badly want to work for you guys. This is us convincing folks that they should be talking to us about an opportunity that we've been engaged to work through, right? It's just a very different perspective, right? So having a really tight, really seamless, well choreographed process that moves quickly is pretty critical, right? So the speed is really important. I love to use the word choreographed in these conversations because that's really what it is. Like we will plan out every touch point ahead of time so that it never feels disjointed, right? The goal is to make the candidates feel like they're the most important thing going on that day. And I think that's one thing that a lot of organizations miss sometimes. Some companies, and it's becoming more and more rare, thank goodness, but a lot of companies have a more old school mindset of candidate, you're lucky to be interviewing here.
Right.
Which translates to employees, you're lucky to work here. That's just not the case, right? The company is lucky to have incredible people interviewing there. A company is incredibly fortunate to have amazing team members. So luckily that's becoming more of a thing of the past, but we do still see it. What else? I think one of the other things that we see often is companies that use things like predictive index and a go, no-go indicator, right?
Interesting.
And largely they're doing it, they have the right idea. They want an additional data point. And those types of platforms can be great as long as you're using the data to build the rest of your interview, right? It's so easy to fall into the trap of making that a pass-fail.
So the data
will only hurt you. That will only hurt your process. You're going to miss out on great people who maybe their kids were screaming in the background while they were doing it. Maybe they didn't stop it, right? Maybe that wasn't the most important thing in the moment they were doing it, and the data was skewed, or whatever. One of the 100 other reasons why the data may not be a true indicator. So we talk all the time about this. Like, use the data, great, but it can't be a pass-fail.
So it's kind of like one element of a larger picture rather than the only element.
Exactly right.
So yeah, and if I can just say it's similar. Having 3 kids in high school of my own, it's similar to the SATs. The SATs is a good part of that, or a standardized test is a part of that, but it cannot be the only thing because you could have had a bad night's sleep the night before. Like you said, or kids screaming in the background, although that doesn't really happen in standardized tests, but you get what I'm saying. It can't be the only thing. It's just part of the whole
I'm surprised you haven't heard my 2.5-year-old screaming in the background yet. And maybe you have, but it will happen at some point.
Right, there you go. Hey, that's why we're live, this is the real deal. This is how it is. We're not in some studio somewhere. This is how we do it. So tell me something that you absolutely cannot live without. This is your daily go-to that you use on a daily, sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll try not to give you the cliche LinkedIn answer because I spend an embarrassing amount of time on LinkedIn. I love it. It's such a fun forum. Like I'm totally off. I don't do Facebook anymore. I don't do Insta. Like I'm sort of basically taking myself off of all social. Social media for me has become LinkedIn. I love it. There's so much fun, useful, interesting content posted by people I care about topics I genuinely care about.
And I got to agree with you 100% there. I mean, my kids make fun of me because, you're not on this anymore. You're not on this. I'm like, listen, LinkedIn that's what I'm interested in. And that's where I'm going to go. So I don't know. What's your stance on the LinkedIn stories now?
I haven't started using them yet. I don't know. I've got to have a conversation with our marketing person Hannah about that. Like, should we do that? Is it cool? Is it not? Do people like this thing? I don't know. The jury's still out on LinkedIn stories.
I have to agree because it's too much like Facebook, Instagram. So I immediately have kind of a bit of a wall up. They're kind of like, I don't know. But I got to tell you, every 10 minutes before, so about 1:50 every Tuesday, right before we're about to start the show, I always have that thought in the back of my head. Oh, maybe I should do a LinkedIn story, but then I never end up doing it.
Well,
I don't want to learn on the fly.
I also sort of don't get it. So that's part of it. I'm like, I don't really think I understand how this thing works. So let me hold off until I actually know how to use this thing.
Right. Let me practice it, make it look good, and then go from there. That's definitely not something you do on the fly for sure.
You got it.
So tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, tell me a little bit about something that you do that's like a cadence or a certain rhythm that you have that, you absolutely, that's part of your daily routine, something that you do.
I have to start my day with walking the dogs. I am not a morning exercise person. I can't do it. My wife gets up and will crush a 45-minute spin session at 6:30 in the morning, and God bless her. I don't understand how she does it. I tell her all the time, I'm like, I don't want to start by getting screamed at by Alex Toussaint on the Peloton app. I can't do it. But good for you. But I've got to get out and walk the dogs. It's just, clear my head, get ready for the day, think about all the cool conversations I get to have, and dive in from there.
Man, I love that you started with something that that seems so simple, but it is so important. Start the day with a clear head, and there's nothing better than, like I said, I have 2 dogs of my own. One's a puppy, but so that's not exactly a clear head kind of a walk. But
sure.
I would definitely agree with you there that doing something simple like that to really ground yourself. I appreciate that response. It's a great answer. So what do you use at HubSearch? Not giving away any secrets here, but what's a recent activity that you've implemented at HubSearch that that has revealed a lot of good, positive results?
Again, a bunch of different ways I can go with that. I'll give you the newest part of our process, which we actually are implementing today. So one of the things we didn't have full ownership of was reference checking process.
Interesting.
That was one thing so we don't check references, right? Because I think it's really important that the employer be the person checking references, right? You as a hiring manager want to be talking to the reference of the person joining your team. You're going to be able to get that. There shouldn't be an intermediary there, right. But we weren't fully owning the logistics there in the same way that we do for interview booking.
Okay.
And we realized that should absolutely be something that we are setting up ourselves, right? We can take that. That's one more thing that we can own. One more thing we can take off of our hiring manager's plate and say, again, hey, the call is booked. We just need you to show up.
I think that's great, and that just shows how you're constantly improving, constantly iterating that process. And once again, those of you that are listening or watching, it's process. I can't tell you how many people, I think this is the 10th episode, and I think every guest has said process is important, and then being able to iterate on that and change up the process and figure out what works best. So I love that you heard it here first, folks. It's starting today. That's great.
Yeah, it's so important for us, right? I mean, we've identified that we've got this incredible opportunity, right? And now it's like, how do we go execute on that? And it's like we've got an amazing team. We're continuing to work on process. We've got incredible technology. We love the tools we use, and we've got the opportunity. All those things exist. So the only thing left is execution. So now we just got to go do the thing.
Just go do it. Once your process is in place, just work the process and change from there. That is great advice. Whether you're a recruiter, if you're in business, that's great advice. Definitely. So it sounds like COVID's not keeping you down anymore.
No, thank goodness. Like I said, we've seen this amazing spike in interest in conversations, in planning for 2021 with our clients. Again, early summer was dicey. It really was. I mean, we were a brand new team.
Yeah.
There were some scary weeks in there, but we pushed through, we survived, and just the resurgence of interest in what we do and the ability for us to help our clients grow has just highlighted how cool of an opportunity this is for us to help this ecosystem and go help agencies grow.
I think that's fantastic. I love what you guys do. I love that you mentioned, hey, 2021 is just around the corner, so let's start planning now.
You got it.
That's the way to go. So, all right, brag time. We're gonna wrap up with a nice little humble brag here. You can flex a little bit. So, tell me something that you guys have achieved, you and your team at HubSearch, something that you guys have achieved recently that you're pretty proud of. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ways, as you said before, there's a lot of ways you could take this. However, give me something that you're pretty proud of.
So one of the metrics that we track, not because it's really important to our business, but it's just a fun thing, is how much revenue, or how much have we helped our customers invest in their own teams? And we just hit the $4 million mark.
Wow.
Right. So we through our searches, through the hires we have generated, we have helped our customers and our clients invest $4 million into their businesses through new hires. That's a pretty cool mark. That was a pretty. As I was talking to our CFO and she brought that to my attention, I'm thinking, man, that's a cool thing.
That's excellent. Wow. Congratulations. That's definitely, I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that, but that's a great statistic. That is, congratulations, really. For a year and a half, whew, that's good stuff.
Yeah. It's something we're really proud of, for a whole bunch of reasons, right? I mean, unfilled seats, right? When you've got a job posting sitting out there for months, that's unrealized revenue. I mean, you've got an opportunity to grow your business and you can't find the person. And we're able to alleviate that headache, that pain point from the agencies we work with. It's a good feeling. It's a lot of fun.
That's fantastic, man. I could talk all day with you. This has been a great interview. I'm so glad you came on the show. I really appreciate it. And of course, from my own personal experience, I have to say thank you to you, to Bridget and the team at HubSearch, because you guys do an excellent job, having personally gone through it. So thank you.
My pleasure, Will. Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll talk to you later. And if you guys throughout the week have questions for Jason, please get in touch with him. Get in touch with me. We will get you connected. So doing some great things over there at HubSearch. Congratulations, Jason.
Thanks, Will.
All right. Have a good one. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We are going to go ahead and let's talk about the Power Play. Listen, I found this great Chrome extension that I absolutely love, and maybe you know about it, maybe you don't know about it, but this Chrome extension, basically search for it on the Chrome store, and it's block yourself from analytics. Anytime that I do a lot of onboarding with ManoBite. Anytime that I get a new onboarding client and I go check out their website, that's the first thing that I hit to make sure that I am manually just clicking and taking myself out of the Google Analytics. So you can import a list of all the clients that you work for or all the clients that you're working with. You can just simply, as I said before, visit the site, click the extension, and you will be taken out of the analytics, and it really helps the data. Helps keep the website data clean. So if you don't have that is something that I use on a daily basis. I have it right there in my Chrome extensions. It's right there in the toolbar. So that is your Power Play. Go get that extension and put it to some good use. So let's take a look at our questions. So going back to our word of the day, do you employ multi-touch attribution in your marketing? And if you do, what model works best for you? So that's our question for the day. And I ask that you please engage with us either on social media, send me an email, or just put some comments on the YouTube channel. Let me know what you're thinking as far as this question for you. Of course, if you have other questions, I'd love to engage with you. I love learning from others. So we ask that you just be a part of the conversation. We can all learn from each other. That's why we do this show. And so until next time, get in touch with us. Again, this show is Swimming with Sharks, Adventures in Sales Ops. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, you want to get in touch with us here at ManoBite, there's all the socials, facebook.com/ManoBite, on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter and, of course, on Instagram as well. You can find us no matter where you're looking. Let's reach out and let's have a conversation. Please get in touch when you are able. And I'm going to make that call out again that I did last week. If you are interested in being on the show, whether you're a sales ops professional, whether you are in marketing and you're working on getting your sales team aligned with marketing, let's talk. Let's get you on the show. Let's let's have a nice conversation. Much like Jason has a process, I try to have a process to getting our guests on the show. I help you fill out and understand kind of your point of view. Maybe you're not, used to being live or anything like that, but we'll help you through the process. And I'd like to invite you onto the show. So reach out and get in touch with me in one of those ways. Thank you for joining us today. This was the 10th episode, and statistically, they say that a lot of podcasts don't make it past the 10th episode, and so that's why I'm calling out to you folks that want to be on the show, but also we're going to keep this going every Tuesday at 2. Please join us. That's Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays at 2. Please join us, and until next time, take care of yourself and each other, and may all your adventures be great. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.